Hello, I'm back. In my video about the transmission order for Space 1999, I remarked on how the various episode order lists for Season 1 created a serious continuity error by placing Earthbound after Black Sun. As I will be revealing episode plot points while explaining the issue during this video, a spoiler alert is now in effect. In Earthbound, it is clear that no more than a few weeks have passed since breakaway, and the moon must still be in the general vicinity of Earth, if only to enable the Caldorian ship, which was heading that way, to be able to pass close enough to identify the moon and lock onto it. In Black Sun, the inhabitants of Moonbase Alpha encounter what is essentially a black hole, which is said to have transported the moon a million light years. At least, that's what Koenig says when asking Alan Carter how the Survival Eagle found its way back to Alpha. The deciding factor here is the presence in Earthbound of Commissioner Simmons. He's a strong personality, and the way he dominates the story makes it inconceivable that any significant events could have occurred since the breakaway without his involvement. Wouldn't he have taken over the interrogation of Lee Russell in matter of life and death, for instance? Given his behaviour here, he would certainly have tried to get aboard the survival ship in Black Sun. Now, some fans will seriously try to suggest that Simmons just sulks in his quarters during any intervening episode. However, this is clearly unrealistic, and there's no way that any episode without Simmons can fill the second slot, which is presumably why Andrew Curley listed it second after breakaway in his online article on the subject. In addition, the BBC repeat run broke from following the production order in order to also place Earthbound as the second episode. Interestingly, Kevin McCoy's Space 1999 website also places Earthbound before Black Sun, with the pair listed as episodes 4 and 5 respectively. Personally, I think the Andrew Curley list makes more sense, especially in light of the stated comments regarding Simmons. Of course, we need to consider the two timelines covering the journey of Moonbase Alpha, produced for books intended to supplement the series, the Moonbase Alpha Operations Manual, and the Moonbase Technical Notebook. Now, as far as I can tell, the order of events in both timelines seem to match the series production order. However, the dates don't exactly match, with dates since breakaway listed for the Technical Notebook entries being noticeably earlier than those for the Operation Manual. Another thing I noticed was the shorter gaps between event dates in the Technical Notebook entries. And then there were the issues arising from the Season 1 episode Dragon's Domain. According to Helena's voiceover, the main part of the episode occurs 877 days after leaving orbit, which equates to Wednesday, 6th of February 2002. This not only places the episode after Black Sun, but contradicts year 2 dates, being after Mark of Archanon, 640 days, and just before the Rules of Luton, 892. The Shane Johnson timeline attempts to explain this by stating that, following the Arcadia incident, where Luke Ferro and Anne Davis elected to remain behind, and the loss of Victor Bergman, David Cano, and Paul Morrow, the moon passed through a space warp. After returning to normal space, computer analysis of distant stellar radiation levels, compared with recorded data, reveals that the rift has thrown the moon 3 years backward in time to a point less than 1 year after they had left Earth. Therefore, in an attempt to maintain Earth time as closely as possible, Koenig ordered all Alpha event recorders to be reset to 338 days since leaving Earth orbit, reflecting true universal time. The Technical Notebook timeline avoids this completely by setting Alpha's encounter with the collection of alien ships and the creature that killed Seleni's crewmates in early July 2000, less than 300 days after breakaway. Speaking of the space graveyard, the Ultra probe encountered it directly behind the planet Ultra only 8 months after leaving Earth. This means that, logically, Ultra and the space graveyard must be located in the Milky Way, relatively close to Earth. Indeed, according to Helena's voiceover in the episode, Victor Bergman had pinpointed Ultra just outside the limits of the solar system. In that case, how could Moonbase Alpha encounter the same set of ships plus the remains of the Ultra probe approximately 2.4 years after breakaway, especially after Koenig's million light-year remark to Alan Carter at the end of Black Sun? A complicating factor is Helena's statement that the moon was travelling between galaxies. The only way this could possibly make sense is if the Black Sun had transported the moon on a horizontal curved path, taken them outside the Milky Way, and the moon was now heading back to the Milky Way without the Alphans realising it. This way they could approach Ultra and the space graveyard, which had both somehow drifted away from the vicinity of Earth in the interim, at a different angle. Now, before any Star Trek fans watching rush to the comment section to ask why they wouldn't recognise the Great Barrier at the edge of the Milky Way, I am obliged to point out that, as of the time of recording, I am not aware of any evidence that the barrier in question even exists outside the Star Trek universe. We also have the problem of the Bringers of Wonder Part 2 apparently taking place 18 months after Part 1. This is a genuine production mistake, as the original script gives the date for Part 2 as 10th of December 2004, placing it 3 days after the 7th of December 2004 date given for Part 1. For some reason, the Shane Johnson timeline has a 6-day gap between dates for both parts. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please feel free to like, share, subscribe and comment, and I'll be back soon.